Hello, everyone, anyone, boys, girls, people of the world. How's it going? My name's Arthur, and I'll be your DM through this campaign that me, my girlfriend, my niece, and my buddy Nick are making. So the four of us have already started playing this campaign, but hang in there with me. That's why I'm making this, to catch you up on what's happened thus far. So this campaign is named The Fall. We're doing it kind of a weird way, because my niece, Kim, is playing two characters. Her characters' names are Azor and Rem. Rem, you'll find out, is mute, so she's only really talking for one of them, but Rem is a human fighter. Azor is a elf wizard, I do believe. And then my buddy Nick is playing a monk named Sebastian. And my girlfriend Kylie is playing a cleric. I think she's a dwarf cleric named Sudri. So the story started out in a city named Atlas. There were only three characters at the time. There was Rem, Azor, and Sebastian. They all kind of just woke up, not really knowing of a past, not really knowing of anything about themselves. There's no basic common knowledge. And they woke up in the middle of the city, Atlas. The city was beautiful, it was shining, there wasn't any people there, but it looked like a successful city. And just a few minutes later, their eyes were horrified. They were horrified. They saw the city itself catch fire. Their entire vision blinked white, and then all of a sudden they were standing in the middle of this burning city. And above the city, they noticed the sky turned bright crimson red, and around the city were four black hooded figures with red eyes and white teeth. Soon after that, their vision flashed completely white, and they woke up in the middle of a street surrounded by three, what we'd call bandits. After fighting off said bandits, they met a character named Reginald, a small dwarven man who owned a pub. He then continued to ask them questions about where they were from, what they knew, and they didn't really know anything. So he took them into the bar. He offered them drinks, and he told them about a reward that was going on through the city, and there were flyers posted up around. The bar was kind of busy. The mission/reward, I guess, was to find a golden chalice that was stolen, and it was presumably stolen by what this town calls the Raiders. The three players made their way around town, just kind of exploring the area, talking to other noticeable NPCs, and right across the street from the pub, they did meet a hotel owner named Zeno. After meeting Zeno and exploring the town a little bit, they decided they should go on this quest. So they went out, and they were informed that Atlas militia was sent out before them, and multiple times, until the city kind of just gave up because the militia never came back. So they set forth onto their adventure, and they eventually ended up finding what is called a raiders camp, where they had to fight off several enemies. There were undead there were raiders, there were archers, and in the middle of the camp, after fighting one big kind of like raider boss, they found a chalice. So they took it back to town, and on their way back to town, they saw that someone was being hung, and it was three raiders that were caught in the middle of town the night before. They were gone for about a week on this first adventure, and the entire town was basically gathered here to watch this hanging, because they were all very happy that maybe this would put an end or deter the raiders from coming back. And so as they were watching the three raiders be hung, everything changed. Their vision went blurry. They were almost forced to focus on the three raiders that were being hung, and one of them with his head hung low. All they saw was a smile. All noise was canceled out around them, and all they could hear is, "So he's made his move." After the hanging, the three players were kind of disturbed and going back to their original mission to return the chalice to the mayor. As they were heading to the mayor's office, they heard screams and cries coming from an alleyway, and as they turned to see what was going on, there was a man taking advantage of the entire town being away, and they saw this man beating a child. So they chose to intervene, but when they did, that same hazy vision kind of just lured over them, and the figure kind of turned around with a blank face but bright white teeth and this huge smile from ear to ear and just said, "That was pretty easy." And then the three players were struck by three massive magic missiles. They were knocked unconscious, and then Azor, the only one that saw, woke up inside of almost an underground basement, and there was this black hooded figure just mutilating his partner Rem ripping parts of him out of his body. And then as soon as the black figure realized that one of them was awake, he almost teleported right in front of their eyes, staring inside of them with his glowing crimson red eyes. And he said, "You know, the three of you aren't the first to fall." And after saying that, it almost felt like there was an earthquake. And then the black robe got distracted, turned around, and their vision flashed white. And the last thing that they saw was a paladin, a woman paladin, holding her sword up in the air with a shining bright light coming out. And she looked down at the three of them and said, "Oh no." And that was kind of the end of our first chapter. The three players ended up waking up a little bit later on inside of a medic room. It felt like it was underground. There's only one person in there, which they soon figured out was Mel. And Mel had called for someone called Madame. Coming in the door was a blonde elf wearing a green robe. And she had greeted the players. She had told them about where they were. They were in the base called the Last Hope, where Mel, Zeno, Reginald, and Bridget, the paladin that saved them, had laid their occupants, and where they kind of worked out of. As she was explaining all this, she let them meet all of the base's occupants, which also included Dave, their scientific leader, and Stitch, their store owner. And after familiarizing themselves with everyone in the base and the layout of the base, Madame asked them to go save one of the other occupants of the base named John, because he had mysteriously disappeared about 2 weeks prior to all these events going down. So they were sent on a mission that was a few days away from Atlas. They made their way through a forest. It was on the way to a town called Neverwinter, and they were sent into a cave at the bottom of a foothill. The cave included several puzzles to get in. They ended up fighting quite a few raiders that were there. There were actually orcs there. They fell for some traps. They fought a giant rock golem. They made their way further into the base and further and further. It took them quite a while until they found a almost 9-foot goblin that was hovering over a cage with a almost naked man in it. They ended up fighting off the goblin and finally defeating him to discover that the man in the cage was John. They made their way back to the base. Everyone in the base was overjoyed and celebrating that John had made it back, that John was back. And then they all kind of returned to their rooms, which were being renovated as they were gone. The entire mission ended up taking about a week. So they woke up the next day, and Madame didn't really have any news for them. She was just kind of out talking to John, and so she sent them onwards to Dave, the scientific director. Dave had needed the three of them to find red power crystals. Now, shortly before this is when they met the newest player that was playing, and that is Sudri, which is my girlfriend, Kylie. She was introduced as her background being from the Atlas Militia, because that's what Bridget works too, and so she kind of brought her to the base and initiated her. So the four of them were sent on a mission by Dave to go retrieve these red power crystals as they went into an abandoned quarry. On their way down to the abandoned quarry, they were ambushed. One of the minecarts that they were using going down was punched off, and they had to save themselves. They were split up. They were fighting golem monsters up top, and the other two need to find some sort of light to regroup with everyone. And as they made it deeper down, they saw a dark figure run into one of the caves. There were four entrances at the bottom. The dark figure ran into one of them. There were noises coming from another one. There was nothing coming from one, and then one of them was completely closed in. So they ended up going around the mine shaft. They fought a giant rock grinder monster. They went through, they found some dynamite, and then they followed the black figure, which went into one of the last caves. Following into that cave, they found a giant vine monster, and then all of a sudden their vision started to go blurry as they saw a figure sitting on the ground, holding its head almost in fetal position. As the three characters' vision went blurry, the other character, Sudri, her back started to burn like no other. And as it burnt, they approached the character, which was kneeling on the ground, and he told them to go away. And his name was Dawn. Shortly after that, they found out that he was wearing some type of gauntlet that was possessing him and almost enhancing his magical powers. They went through a long fight and ended up retrieving the gauntlet and taking it back to Atlas. Once they entered the city of Atlas, people started to act weird. They were just staring at them with these blank expressions, eyes glossed over gray, having no clue what was going on, when eventually they made their way to about the middle of the city, right outside the hotel and the pub, and Reginald rushed out and rushed them back in to the Last Hope. Oh, I should mention, the Last Hope has a teleporter which they get in and out of the base from inside of the hotel. After rushing them into the Last Hope, Madame quickly secured the glove and almost threw it inside of what was an oven and made everyone leave the room, and they heard a giant explosion. Minutes afterwards, Madame came out, and her entire right arm was singed up to the elbow. After the gauntlet that they had brought back had been destroyed, Madame continued to explain to them as to what they had encountered as a dark item that was scattered across the world, and she said that there were several more, but there's only one more that the organization actually knew about, which was a mask inside of what she called the Lost City. And the Lost City was a city where the world's greatest heroes kind of came together, and the world's biggest nations came together for peace treaties and or the settlement of wars or other things along that matter, where the greatest heroes of the world trained. And that's kind of where we ended it, and where we'll pick back up. So I really hope that anyone listening will definitely enjoy what we're playing and what we're putting out. I'll try to do my best as a DM. The volume will probably be pretty low because we're running off one computer and one mic with 4 people. So thank you for listening to this short little episode. The actual first official episode should be out soon. I'm going to be posting it here on Podbean and then also onto YouTube, where you can find me at KNANK Cast. And I'll try to upload an episode at least once a week. We play every Friday. We play for about 4 hours a night. And then I edit videos. Each video should be about an hour long. I edit it through the week. And I hope to hear from anyone soon. Hear from you all soon. So that's it.